What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-hosts. It's been a while since I can say the plural. Colin Alcaves and Will Cohen. The offseason has officially arrived, and throughout the first couple weeks of the offseason, we're going to be doing this little mini-series that we got here called Fixing the Rangers. Basically, I'm playing GM, and I'm just going to keep listing takes that I would do if I were in Chris Drury's position. Colin and Will are here to either agree with me or disagree with me. We'll see, but I'm pretty sure if we would have made this earlier, episode 1 would have been about firing Peter Laviolette, but the Rangers went ahead and did that one for us. So it's a good thing I don't have to talk about that because I would have been really angry. But in order to kick off this little mini series we got going on, if I'm Chris Drury, first thing I'm looking to do now is to move on from Chris Kreider. I'll save my deeper thoughts on that as the episode progresses. But I think he needs to go, and we're here to talk about that today. So we're going to get right on into that. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification, leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, and what you would do if you were the general manager of the New York Rangers and how you would fix this team. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But before we really get into it, Colin, it's been a while. How you doing? Explain the jersey you got on.
I'm good. It has been a good long while. Work has had me busy, but I'm finally free again out of my busy season. Rocking the Wild jersey, Kaprizov, hoping they can upset Vegas tonight. Just rooting for the underdog tonight. Plus, I think it's the only jersey of any of the teams that I have playing tonight. It's a work in progress. But yeah, no, that's why I'm rocking this. I'm waiting on my Stars jersey to come in the mail, as we were just talking about before. But more excited than anything, I'm excited to talk about the Rangers. And a long time since I've to actually, do anything other than what I've been working on with my job. So I'm excited to get back into sports big time.
Well, I'll say it's good to have you back, buddy. And I am also rooting for the Wild against Vegas. I showed you my bracket. I can't reveal too much, in case I jinx my entire thing. But I will say, I do favor the Wild because who likes Vegas, right? Nobody. Not even the people from Vegas like Vegas. It's just all the tourists that want to go see the Golden Knights play. But Will, how you doing, bud?
I don't really like your comments about no one liking Vegas because I'm actually rooting for them to win the Stanley Cup.
God damn it.
I really like Vegas.
Lost hundreds of subscribers.
I love Vegas and I love Jack Eichel, so I'm rooting for them. I can't lie.
I'm just gonna move on before you keep damaging the team. I'm putting in more work than the Rangers PR team this season right now by moving on immediately. But anyways, Chris Kreider, I'm a believer that he needs to go. I get it. After breakup day, we heard some news. He was injured, started the season injured, had a back injury, hurt himself the first game coming back from the Four Nations face-off. I get it. He was hindered. And how good could he be on a team that everyone is playing bad on? Look, I get it. I understand the counter argument that some of you are probably prepared to drop on me. But honestly, this is a guy who we're paying $7 million a year to only have 8 assists, -5. I don't know. He could have a bounce back season if he's healthy and the team is playing better under new management. But to me, the way I'm approaching this offseason is a retool, not necessarily a rebuild, but we need to move on from a lot of these core players. And to me, Kreider is one of them. I want to see young, fresh talent up in the top 6, and that's not going to happen when Chris Kreider is there filling up that space. We saw him play on the third line a little bit towards the end of this season, and he kind of just vanished off the face of the earth. He scored a couple goals in the end. He was stat pad in there towards the end of the season to try to make me stop making this episode, but it didn't work. I think he's old. Time to move on. I'm over it, and I'm looking to trade him now while I can. I don't even care if we get a couple picks in return, clear the cap, sign a better guy in the offseason. I know a lot of people in the comments are going to tell me he's a fan favorite Ranger. His jersey belongs in the rafters. I don't believe that for a second. Sure, he's been here for a while, career Ranger, has done a lot for the organization, but it's a business at the end of the day. We've proven that in the past, and I'm ready to move on. That's my take. I'll let either one of you tell me I'm wrong first.
Well, you want to take this one?
I was going to let you take it. I can't lie.
All right. Gladly. I think you're wrong. I think there's basically 2 schools of thought when you look at it. Obviously, you look at a guy like Kreider, last couple seasons, 52 goals, 36 goals, 39 goals. Last season, he had, past one where everybody's stuck. But the one before that, he had a career high in assists. He's been a plus the last 3 seasons by almost plus 20. And I think when he was with, a guy like Mika, who for the first half of the season was absolutely abysmal, there was still no first line right winger. And then by the time they brought Miller over, he was already hurt. They were breaking that line up. There's no continuity. And like you mentioned, they listed off a laundry list of things. I don't understand why they didn't just shut him down. He shouldn't have played in the Four Nations tournament, and that's a bad thing. That's a bad call on his part, 100%. But to take a guy who, like the last 3 seasons, has been an absolute unit in terms of scoring goals, and then even better on the power play. Obviously, the power play stinking this year didn't help him either. I don't know. I think it's hard to justify completely moving him off, but at the same time, he is taking up a spot in the top 6 from one of the kids, from an Othman, from a pro. So if you're looking to create space for one of those guys to step up, if you find a coach that's actually willing to give them the minutes, then maybe you can justify that move. But for me, Chris Kreider, he still has a lot of game left in him. I think he had, obviously, we all knew he had the back issues. Then he hurt his left hand. He was dealing with vertigo. Like he had, like I said, a laundry list of illnesses. He should have just been shut down. And for some reason, they kept putting him out there, injured and maimed. And then it looks bad for him and for the team. And then everybody's bashing him, and that's probably not helping him either. So it's just everything piling on a season full of mistakes and mismanagement and mishandling of situations all the way around. I don't get why we can't ever just put a guy on the injured list or something. Like we did it with Edstrom and it wasn't a problem, but everybody else, you have to play through your injuries, whether it's Trouba and his messed up leg, or Lindgren who was always nursing some form of injury, or it's always something. And then we push it till it's too far, the player falls out of favor with the fans, and then we ship them off. So I don't understand why that always has to be the case. But like I said, if you find a coach that's going to be willing to give one of these young guys a shot in the top 6, I'm not opposed to it. I'm also not opposed to putting Kreider on my third line. He's still a guy that you could put out there on the power play, and you're still getting valuable minutes and a solid guy, a power forward on the third line, who could benefit from some continuity and maybe having some like the third line all last year was a revolving door. It was a new combination pretty much every night. So I think some consistency and kind of an understanding from him of the changing of roles, not to mention the role that he plays in the locker room. I know a couple years back, everybody wanted this guy to be captain. Now I'm gone, which seems to be a trend with every captain that we name. So, I mean, if it fits the bill, I'm not saying I want him to be captain now, but, he is an assistant captain. He's been here a while. He knows what it takes to win in New York. Obviously hasn't been able to do the full thing, but he's won a lot of games in New York. He's a consistent playoff performer when we get there. I mean, and every season we look at who performs in the playoffs, and Chris Kreider's never one that we leave off. I mean, we can look at last season, a natural hat trick against the Hurricanes and a game clincher to send us to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I mean, when the lights shine brightest, this guy steps up to the plate. So, I don't know. It's hard for me to fully justify getting rid of him. I can understand it, but my heart's going to lean towards no. 1, because he's been here for so long, and I know that's a bad excuse, but 2, because of what he's done and one bad season from everybody. It's hard to justify moving him when the whole team was bad. Like if it was just him, I could maybe understand it if his career was taking a dive, but everybody had less points, like almost half their points. So it's for me, I don't know. I'd say no personally.
Now, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. Everything you said is valid, and I don't mean to undermine anything he's done for this team in the past. I'm not saying that next season, if the team is good, he can't come back and have a 60, 70-point season. That's surely in the equation. The way that I'm looking at it is just from where this team is at, where they need to go moving forward, and how they're going to get there. I feel like I said it before, some major pieces of this core need to be moved. Zibanejad, I don't see him being moved. Panarin has a year left. He might be moved. He might not. I'm not too sure about that one.
He has a full no movement clause. I doubt he waives it.
Yeah. So when I look at pieces that make a lot of money that we can legitimately possibly clear to benefit us, I look at Kreider as that number 1 name. And, everything you said, Colin, is valid. Like I said, I will not sit here and argue with you because I agree with everything. It's just, I'm the GM here, and I got to make the tough calls. And as much as I would hate to do it, I think it's a call that needs to be made. So I'm still like, you haven't changed my mind, but you make good points. If I'm jury, I'm still doing it though. But I'll let Will give his opinion.
I agree with Colin. I can see both sides of it. I think that if you're looking at the team from like a cap perspective, that's a guy that you obviously want to move. He's making 6.8 million or around there for the next 2 seasons, and there's a couple holes that you have to fill. Like you got to think about what you're going to do with Keandre Miller. If you get rid of him, you're going to have to sign somebody. You don't have a lot of money left because obviously you signed Igor to a contract. You've signed um, Lafreniere to a contract. I think they have around like 3 or so million to play with, I think, or something like that. Um, so if you're looking at it from a cap point of view, then you obviously trade him. But at the same time, I mean, he had a hand injury. He developed vertigo from a back injury. Like there's this long laundry list of all these injuries he had. One, he should have been shut down, like Colin said, I think, and this was a lost season from December.
Remember,
Um, yeah, November, and there was no point having. I get it that you were still technically in the race, but there really was no point of having him go out there and continue to play injured when he has three nagging injuries or two nagging injuries along with vertigo. Um, so I think I don't know if I kept him, I'd probably put him on the third line because I don't want him to have I don't want a clogged spot for Othman or Perot. But at the same time, if the Rangers move him, I would understand it from a cap perspective. But like Colin also said, I mean, Chris Kreider is someone who came in, the 2012 playoffs and has always been clutch for the Rangers. I mean, that natural hat trick last year to what were the Rangers losing 3-1 at that point, and then they he was the reason why they won that game. I mean, he had that huge natural hat trick to spring them into the Eastern Conference Final. He's always shown up in the playoffs. Colin obviously already mentioned that. It would be hard for me to see him go, but I can understand if they did, I would still lean towards not trading him because I think he could still be valuable when healthy on the third line.
Again, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. You bring up a lot of great mentions of the past. But unfortunately, when it comes to this series we got going on, I'm not worried about the past. I'm worried about the future. And, both of you bringing up how he was injured this season, he could have been completely healthy this season. And I feel like I might still be sitting with the same point of view and opinion of where I'm at. Like I said, I think this team needs a retool. And the only way I can see that happening is by doing this trade. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm 1-2 here. Maybe the comment section is going to storm against me and tell me that I should never be GM again. And this might be the only episode of the series.
I feel like it's pretty torn, honestly. Because I've seen it just on Instagram and other pages. It's a very controversial topic because Kreider has done a lot for the franchise. Obviously, there's the nostalgia of all the runs we've had with him. The fact that he is the last player from that well, now JT Miller's back, but from that original Cup run, there's a lot of good memories with him. So it's hard, and sometimes you have to be willing to make those tough calls, like you're saying. But I could see it happening, and I would be upset, but I would understand it. But I could also see it not happening, and I wouldn't be like, "Why is he still here?" So it could really go either way. Like I'm on the fence. I understand both sides of it. If I was GM, I'd probably keep him, but I also feel like I am not in a position to be making those calls because I love Chris Kreider because he's been here for so long and done so much for this team. I mean, I think about the year we went out first round versus the Devils, and there was only one man who showed up. It was Chris Kreider. They were talking about him breaking the playoff goals, like the amount of playoff goals scored in a series against the Devils. We went to 7 games strictly on his back. So I don't know.
Too much dwelling on the past. Under my management, anybody can get it. Yeah. If I don't see you as a valuable piece to me winning a Stanley Cup within the next couple seasons, you're on the chopping block, which to this team is everybody except for Igor.
I can't wait for the Keandre Miller episode.
Oh, yeah, that'll probably
Lord.
too. Because, I'm thinking about it, right? Now, I'm not actually the GM. You know, this trade isn't going to happen the second I hit post. But throughout like the first early episodes, it will be fun to do a few hypotheticals. Let's just say episode 2 is let Keandre Miller walk and sign a better defenseman. We can make a hypothetical where we also just have an extra $7 million in cap space, assuming Kreider's not here, to make that work. But I feel like that once we get too deep into the series, it'd be like just a branching of like different timelines of did this happen? Did that happen? So it won't last that long, but we can have some fun with it throughout like episodes 2 and 3. So will we have this Kreider cap space? Will we not? I don't know. But I don't know. If I'm GM, Kreider's out of here, like it or not. This is why this is the me being a GM series and not the Colin being a GM series. Otherwise, it would be like, well, we could, but we couldn't. I don't know. I'm here to lay down some hard law. I'm going to come into every episode with a hot take of what I'm going to do, and you're all just going to have to deal with it, whether you agree with me or not. We'll see if you can change my mind on some of them, but I don't know. But I think, yeah, we can. I'll pretty much just say episode 2 is going to be let Keandre Miller walk. But we'll get into that within the coming days. So we'll wrap up this episode right now. That's step 1 of my management. Kreider's out of here. Let me know down in the comment section if you agree or not. Am I going to be just as hated as Drury, or am I going to be the next Iserman? I got the Iser plan coming in.
Yeah.
But hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and you're ringing that bell so you don't miss notification. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. Have a good one. And let's go
Rangers.